Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Bradburn. Alongside me is Logan Camden, and today we are getting all of our official predictions down on paper for the NFL season. We are making our award predictions. We are predicting the full NFL standings, and we are going to go through our hypothetical playoff brackets and choose our hypothetical Super Bowl champions. So we've got a lot to get through today, Logan. Let's start with the award portion, and let's start with the biggest of them all, MVP, where we had really a historic two-man race this past year, two of the great quarterback seasons that we've ever seen between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. We had the split between the All-Pro vote and the MVP vote. Who do you view as the best bet for MVP going into this year?
I think it's going to be a tightly contested race, probably with similar contenders again. I'm going to take Lamar to win MVP this year. This would be his third NFL MVP. He would join really rare company of Hall of Famers and NFL legends to ever accomplish that feat. And I do look at him as the safest and best bet for this award. One, just because of the total raw production, like when you're just looking at complete volume, there's really isn't anybody that produces on paper like Lamar Jackson. That's when you hear his fans talk about, oh, how was Lamar not considered to be the best quarterback in the game? Well, if you're just looking at raw statistics, it's a pretty good argument. I mean, he was exceptional at protecting the football through the air last season, had less than 5 interceptions, had 10 turnovers total between interceptions and fumbles, had over 5,000 total yards of offense, 4,000 through the air. Like, Lamar has finally, last season, took that leap as a all-pro caliber passer to combine that with his rushing game. And Lamar does have Derrick Henry to rely on in the backfield, which is going to enhance him even more as a rusher like we saw with the tandem last season. And it's just going to take extra stress off of him where he doesn't have to take a hit every single play, and maybe he's at risk of burning his tread on his tires and getting injured or something like that. So I think he's going to have gaudy statistics, probably north of 40 touchdowns and 5,000 total yards, and he's great at protecting the football. So I think the statistical case is going to be great. And then behind him, the other component that comes with the MVP award, you know this as well as I do, Carson, you have to win football games on top of it. I was looking recently, Carson, at the historical MVP race, and I thought it was interesting. Randall Cunningham in the 1990 season had 30 touchdowns, had 900 yards on the ground, had like 4,000 plus yards passing, and he didn't win MVP that year, even though he outproduced Joe Montana, and the Eagles' offense was markedly better than the Niners. The Niners end up winning 14 games that year, and so the other component that is really important when we're talking about the MVP race, one, I just wanted to mention Randall Cunningham. I think that's maybe one of the worst MVPs that didn't go to a quarterback I've ever seen when looking in retrospect. But two, the other important component is winning football games, and I think the Ravens are going to win 13 or 14 games probably. I think they have the best roster in the game and elite coaching staff. So I think Lamar is going to have the best of both worlds when it comes to the statistical case, the team-winning impact kind of case, and if we're going to take it a step further, we bring voter fatigue into question. Josh won it last year. If that does factor in at all, I think we probably see a balancing act where the pendulum swings back in Lamar's favor. So he is my pick to win MVP this year.
I really think it's a two-man race going into the year, and I think it's legitimately a toss-up between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, and it's going to come down to who plays better by some razor-thin margin between these two quarterbacks who are both among the greatest regular season performers and greatest regular season offensive engines and greatest dual threats that we've ever seen. Two of the greatest raw physical talents that we've ever seen who have now, more so than ever before, ironed out their ability to limit negative plays, improved their processing, and just rounded out both of their games to the best version of themselves that we've seen. I am going to slightly lean with Josh here. I think that when you talk about the team success component, both of these teams to me are locks to win their divisions, are effectively locks to win 12 plus games. I actually have them both winning 13, but I think that Josh will be viewed as a bit more singularly responsible for Buffalo's success, because I don't think the Bills' defense will be on Baltimore's level. I think that they will be more reliant on just being such an elite offense, and obviously Josh is overwhelmingly the driver of that. And even when you look at the offense, both these guys are completely transformative. But the Bills offense doesn't have a playmaker like Derrick Henry, certainly, or even a playmaker like Zay Flowers alongside Josh. He is truly the ultimate elevator when it comes to just spreading the wealth and making the most out of all of the receiving talent that is alongside him, obviously significantly amplifying the run game for the Bills offense as well. And so even though there isn't like another star in this offense alongside him, in terms of skill position talent, Deion Dawkins, I would say, is a star level player. Maybe you could argue that James Cook is a star. He's very good. I just know that the Bills are going to be like a top 3 offense in football because that's what they have been every year since Josh Allen took his leap to MVP level in 2020. And he's only gotten better since then because what he did at an unbelievably high level last year was limit negative plays. Literally, he was the best we've ever seen. He had the lowest negative play rate ever from a quarterback with his volume. So when it comes to not taking sacks, not giving the football away, the guy was an absolute superhuman on top of his all-time great creation, arm talent, audacity, ability to make throws that really nobody else on the planet can, insane effectiveness as a scrambler and a short yardage rusher, all these things that he does that have made him a superhuman, he paired with this incredible, masterful control of the game. And if he can keep those turnovers so low again this year, which I do think he can, I actually think his raw yardage totals will be a little bit greater than last year. I think that that's where Josh kind of got undersold to some extent. The guy missed a lot of football just because the Bills were blowing teams out, and he sat for extended stretches of fourth quarters. He didn't play at all in week 18. And so on a per snap basis, his raw production was actually a lot closer to Lamar's than the raw totals without context would have indicated. So obviously you can't go wrong with Lamar. This guy just had one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen from a quarterback. He led the NFL in passing yards per attempt and rushing yards per attempt, and he could easily do so again. But I do think that Josh will be viewed a bit more as the driver of his team's success, doing it with a less stacked roster around him and yet still being just as dominant as a football team. And if I had to pick one more little tiebreaker, I know that Josh Allen is going to play 17 games because Josh Allen literally has never been hurt in a way that at least keeps him from being on the football field and giving you elite production. Lamar, although he's been totally healthy the last couple seasons, is not as surefire a bet to give me a fully healthy season. But like I said, it's going to be one or the other, in my opinion. Is there a dark horse who you like at all here? Any sneaky, sexy outside pick?
Maybe Burrow if the Bengals end up overcoming the shortcomings of their defense. Like, again, I just look at everybody. I look at all these teams. One, it's going to be a quarterback. It's just a quarterback award at this point. Like, it's really simple as that. Honestly, probably Jordan Love if, like, he goes crazy.
I like that.
I couldn't see Hurts doing it just because of the talent. I couldn't see it with Goff because of the talent. Stafford, maybe, like if he just has this overwhelming, nasty statistical case, it would be Stafford, Love, and Burrow in some sort of order. I think you got to go with a quarterback and you got to go with a team that's going to have success. But like, why would you go outside of Josh or Lamar? You know, if those are your criteria. Like, to me, they are just such no-brainers.
I totally agree. The true dark horse pick that I do like would be Love. With Matthew Golden now in that receiving room, I think that this was not a volume passing offense last year, but it was a very efficient passing attack, and I think that they could dial up the volume a little bit this year. I think that Love is going to be more consistent, and I think he has such great traits as a thrower of the football, as a creator, that if he can just do a little bit better in terms of limiting those turnovers, I could see him putting together very good production, very good efficiency, and doing it for a team that is going to win a whole lot of football games. That being said, I'll never view him as a driver of an offensive success, as an engine of the caliber of a Josh or Lamar. And I think that Love, if Golden is the receiver that I think he is actually in a very privileged situation with great play calling, with a really good offensive line, with a great run game. So although I think he's really good, again, that is a true dark horse pick. I'll just shout out one guy who I actually think probably has the third best chance. Patrick Mahomes, man. I think that Mahomes is so ridiculously great in terms of managing the game, in terms of clutch situations, right? Just all of the ridiculous big-time game-winning drives he led last year. That was enough, paired with the Chiefs winning so many games, to, like, still have him, I believe, finish fourth or fifth in MVP voting in a year when, like, his raw numbers were considerably down. And I do think that this year, even with the Rashee suspension, this is the most talented receiving core that he's had in quite some time. And I do think his production could be a bit more explosive than it has been the last couple years, but I still don't think it's going to be Josh or Lamar level. Those guys have just set the bar so ridiculously high in the regular season. So Pat would be my third choice, but still a distant third. How about Offensive Player of the Year, Logan? Who is your pick here?
So like MVP, I also hinted at this award in some of our hot predictions before we came up to this. So I'm going to give this to Saquon Barkley. I predicted that Saquon was going to be the first rusher ever to run for 2,000 yards in back-to-back campaigns. And I just don't see why Saquon wouldn't replicate a lot of his success, even if he doesn't run for 2,000 again. I don't see why he couldn't stack it with another 1,600 or 1,700 yard campaign, even if he doesn't meet those lofty expectations I have for him. This offensive line in front of him is absolutely stacked. They lose Mekhi Becton, who was at right guard for them, but he's, to me, was the least important member and cog in that machine up front. You've still got Landon Dickerson. You've still got Jordan Mailata. You've still got Lane Johnson, like Cam Jurgens. This is a disgustingly good offensive line. Like I mentioned with Lamar and Derrick Henry, the inverse for the running back paired with the elite rushing quarterback is also true. Not only is Lamar enhanced by Derrick Henry is enhanced by Lamar. So by that property, Saquon is enhanced by Jalen Hurts with what they can do in the read option game. Now, obviously, I think Saquon enhances Hurts more than vice versa. But Saquon is in a very privileged situation. I still think he is the best running back in football. He is going to eat up a ton of volume for this offense if it is just between the tackles and additionally in the receiving game. So Saquon, we're talking about offensive engines, I look at as the offensive engine and the driver of success for the Eagles offense. And I think he's primed for another historic season. And again, I don't know if he necessarily tops what he did last season, but I think he can get pretty damn close. And he's my pick.
So we talked a little bit when you came out with this bold hot take that he could replicate the 2,000-yard season, just about how hard it's been for running backs to replicate great success coming off of a historic campaign like that. The closest anybody has ever come to replicating a 2,000-yard season the very next year was Barry Sanders, who had 1,491. So it's a very high bar just to uphold that level of efficiency with that level of volume, that sort of physical tax. But I do think that Saquon's got a chance, and I think that Saquon is absolutely a safe bet to be among the most productive and outstanding offensive players in football this year. The guy's so ridiculously talented, and the situation is so good. I'm going to go with Bijan Robinson, though. I think that this is an absolute monster year for him. I think that there is a chance that we view him after this season as the best running back in football. I mean, he is such a supremely talented all-around runner of the football. He's also really impactful in the receiving game. And he's just such a focal point for this Falcons offense that is very strong up front with their run-blocking offensive line, that has a very run-heavy identity. I think that there is going to be tons of usage for him. And last year, he was already like one of the most productive offensive players in football. I mean, he had 1,900 yards from scrimmage. He had 15 total touchdowns. I think he can even build on those numbers a little bit this year. He's also been extremely durable. He's played every game of his career so far. Obviously, very young, fresh legs, only 23 years old, still perhaps trending upwards as a talent. So I think that Bijan is a guy who's already among the best, but could even take a little bit of a leap this year. Let's go to Defensive Player of the Year, Logan. Who do you like here?
I think I hinted at this in our preview, too. I've got Aiden Hutchinson taking this award home, and I think this is the year for him to take that leap into elite pass rushing territory, like what we're talking about with Myles Garrett and TJ Watt and some of those kind of guys. I think he does take that leap. Now, I am a little nervous. He's got a metal rod in his leg. He suffered a gruesome leg injury last season. Like, that is going to be the hurdle for Aiden Hutchinson to climb, I think. Just getting back, it's hard. You know, any injury that hampers your body. But a lower leg injury like that, it is harder to come back from. But he's tough as nails. And what he did last season, he was doing it. He was taking that leap. He was going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Like, Hutchinson was eating guys alive last year. In 5 games, he had 27 pressures, and he had 7.5 sacks. Like, I mean, he was just on such a freakish level. It was one of the best starts to a pass rushing campaign I had ever seen. He had 5 sacks in that final game against Tampa Bay. Like, if he can get back on track like that at all or come close to what he was doing last season, I think he should be a shoo-in for this award. So I've actually got him marked down for another award that isn't just Defensive Player of the Year, but I do think he is going to be the best player on the defensive side of the ball this season.
It's a fair pick. I'm going to go elsewhere in the NFC North and take Micah Parsons, new Green Bay Packer. Micah Parsons, I'm just so incredibly high on his talent and what he is going to do for this Green Bay defense. This is a guy who led the NFL in pressures in 2 out of the last 3 seasons, and then last year led the NFL in pressures per game. He is just so ridiculously destructive as a pass rusher. He does that in spite of the fact that actually in his career he has a slightly higher double team rate than, say, Myles Garrett. He's still generating the most pressures in football since he set foot on an NFL field. He's also been, along with Myles Garrett, one of the 2 most consistent players in the NFL in terms of just generating sack production year over year. And I think he's going to transform a Green Bay defense that was already really good. I mean, a very stellar run defense last year and a defense that was able to force a lot of turnovers in the pass game, but nevertheless had a limitation. And that was the lack of a high-end pass rusher, and the fact that when they weren't getting creative and they weren't bringing simulated pressures and creative blitzes and doing these things to kind of create havoc schematically, when they just lined up 4 men up front, 4-man rush conventional, they just didn't have that big time playmaker. They were 22nd in pressure rate on straight conventional 4-man rushes last year. I think that rate is going to dramatically increase with Micah Parsons in the fold. Now, I like Rashawn Gary as a complementary pass rusher to him. I think he's a guy who might feast off of having Micah on the edge opposite him, but Gary was not somebody who was meant to be a number 1 pass rusher. Micah is absolutely stamped as one of those guys, maybe the best pure pass rusher in football. I think there's a very strong argument. I would still say that Myles Garrett is definitely the best defensive player because I think that there's a gap in terms of run defense, but when it comes to just getting after the quarterback, Micah is one of the best that we have ever seen. And I think that honestly, with the pressures that he's generated year over year, just being the most consistent in that department, there's potential for him to spike where instead of being consistently in like that 13, 14 sack range, we get an 18 sack campaign for Micah this year. We get a 19 sack campaign. Like the talent is there.
I think a good comparison for that is like Jared Verse this last season. He led the NFL in all the pressures, but he had 4.5 sacks. You know, pressures are the most valuable thing you can do as an edge rusher, and not all the time it isn't reflected, in sack totals. But I think pressures are a better indicator of how good a edge rusher is.
Yeah, and Micah's sack totals have still been incredible. They just haven't been like the literal best in the league like his pressures have. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he is a ridiculous talent. And again, I think the Packers defense was already very good last year, but he is going to just put them over the top in terms of having a special talent at the position where they needed it most. So I think he is going to have a phenomenal season. He's my pick. I think that you have to mention Myles Garrett as sort of like the favorite going into every year at this point for Defensive Player of the Year. But Hutchinson is a great shout as well. I mean, if he comes back looking the same, he got off to just a ridiculous start last year. Let's look to the young guys, Logan. Who's your pick for Offensive Rookie of the Year?
I've actually got a teammate of Micah Parsons here, and I'm going to go with Matthew Golden to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think Gene T is probably the no-brainer pick, the popular one, but I immediately think that Golden's going to be the number 1 receiver in the room, and I like a lot of what he brings to the table. Most notably, it's that game-breaking, explosive, 4.2, 4.3 speed, and I really like how the guy gets in and out of cuts. I know some people have been disappointed with some of the route running they've seen in preseason and stuff. I think he's really good getting in and out of breaks, and so in space, if he's got space to operate after the catch too, he's an explosive play threat, has a little bit of some run after the catch, and I kind of think he was held back in college by the lack of arm talent from Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. I think with a guy like Jordan Love with a rocket arm, you could see some more dynamism over the top on deeper shot plays, if it's seam routes, if it's him lining up outside on just goes. Like, I think that was a dynamic of Golden's game that wasn't really fully tapped into at Texas, where I think you really could see him become more of that explosive big play over the top kind of threat. But I do think he brings a high baseline with what he can bring you over the middle of the field, outside of the numbers. I think he's really technical. I think he's really technically sound, along with being physically gifted. So I think he's gotten a great rookie year. I would, if you had to pin me down, I'd say I'll go 1,200 yards, 8 to 10 TDs, something like that.
Bring you down.
I think he lights it up. I think he lights it up.
That's a big season. And I'm all in on the Packers, man, and I'm a Jordan Love believer, and I'm a Golden believer. I just don't know if they'll throw the ball quite enough for him to get that sort of production, or if he'll be a clear enough number one for him to get that sort of production. But I do think he's got a good chance to be a 1,000-yard receiver.
I could see Love throwing for like 4,500, and he's got, 5 guys hovering around 900,
Yeah, I mean, we saw Love get to almost 4,200 in 2023. There was a little bit of a dip in terms of passing volume last year, but his efficiency was actually even better. And I do love Jordan Love, man. I think he does a lot of great stuff for you. So I think that there's an opportunity for him and Golden to elevate each other and be a really great pairing. That being said, I am going to go with Genty. I just think he is such a safe bet to be so extremely productive off the bat. One of the best running back prospects that we've seen in recent years. I mean, I think if you look at the last decade, it's probably him and Bijan and Saquon who stand out as the top 3 talents that we've seen come through the draft at the running back position. I guess last decade includes Zeke 2016, who was also definitely very highly regarded. But he is one of those absolute premier talents at the position. Just very complete as a runner, physical, explosive, great contact balance, really nice one-cut ability. He just checks basically every box for you out there. And I think that the Raiders' offense is going to be really good. And in my opinion, is underrated going into this year. I'm a big Geno believer. I think that Bowers and Jacoby, that's a really nice pass-catching tandem. So I think that their passing attack is going to be really effective. But I also think they're going to run the ball a lot. And even though there's still questions about the offensive line, I think that Genty is going to get a lot of touches, and I think he's so gifted as a runner that I'm expecting big, big numbers out of him. And I think we could see him utilized more as a pass catcher than we did in his last year at Boise State, because we saw that from him as a sophomore, where he was one of the most productive receiving backs in college football. The talent's just too good for me to pass up on here. And just my confidence in him being such a featured piece in the offense, and knowing that running backs just have such a leg up in terms of the ease with which they can be so productive as rookies.
Yeah, and I mean, he doesn't have a ton of tread on his tires either. I think Genty's going to come in and ball out. And I'm not as concerned about the offensive line. Like, it's not like one of the best in football, but I really like some of the foundational pieces, like Colton Miller and Jackson Powers Johnson, I think are studs at their position. So it's obviously not the entirety of the offensive line, but those guys are studs. And, yeah, I think Genty's going to be – damn, I know the Raiders picked up Kenny Pickett. They're going to win a Super Bowl this year now.
Yeah, they got small hands, Kenny. Congratulations. Yeah, I don't mean to make it sound like the offensive line is bad. I just think it's mediocre. But
No, I'm not saying you. It just surprised me that people are this skeptical that I think Genty's going to step in and kick them up a notch.
Yeah, he'd be the first running back to win the award since Saquon. It has been a big-time quarterback and receiver award. The receiver who I would probably look at as my favorite is Travis Hunter. I think that he could have a big, big year. Yeah, Tet you just think is going to be such a clear number one, but I'm big on the Jags bounce back this year. I think him and BTJ are both going to be monsters.
I hope, man. I hope.
I know. Duval, baby. We got to buy all the Liam Cohen stock, and we'll maybe get to that later in the episode. I could see Travis having one of those 1,200-yard campaigns.
Whoa!
We'll get to that later in the episode.
Whoa!
Duval, baby.
Spicy Carson.
But I am going to go with Genty here. How about other side of the ball? Defensive Rookie of the Year, Logan. Who do you like?
I'm going to go with the no-brainer pick, Abdul Carter, for a few reasons. One, I think if you look at the history of this award, a secondary player can win it. It is much more common that the dominant rookie edge rusher wins the award. We saw that with Verse last season. It's just way more common for them to have that kind of immediate impact and be the guy that takes home this award. Two, when I look at Abdul Carter, I look at another edge rusher that broke onto the scene and was really great out of the gates. And I think this guy is one of the best in the league today, and I don't expect him to be as great as he was his rookie season, but I do think they have some similarities. The guy I'm talking about is Will Anderson Jr., and the reason I compare him is because they were both similarly super productive in their final season of collegiate football. And when I look at a guy like Abdul Carter, he may not put up like gaudy, like crazy numbers his rookie season, but I could see him getting to about 10 sacks or something like that, a ton of pressures, and that is traditionally enough to bring home this award. And I think for edge rushers, it really is simple. Like, if you play at a big-time program and you produce a lot, I'm going to bank on you being really good at the next level, right? So the third component and why I'm confident in taking Abdul Carter is the reason that he has got great infrastructure around him, where I think his numbers could actually, his sack numbers to be specific, could be potentially even a little bit more inflated because he's playing with some other elite pass rushers. So, like, he's going to get some team pressures, and they're going to get some team sacks where this pass rush is just so overwhelming that everybody's going to eat. So I think he fits all of my criteria. He was a great college player. I think he's going to be good immediately. He's at the position where I think it's really easy to produce as a starter immediately, and where we see most of the award winners take home this award. And he's got good infrastructure behind him. So he was the top defensive player taken, and I'm going to take him to win the award.
Yeah, he's a mega talent, and it's not just the elite production like you mentioned. I mean, the traits, the explosiveness, the quickness, the bend with this guy. I also think he's an excellent run defender. Like, he is a awesome edge talent, and like you said, I think he's part of a fearsome defensive front where dudes are going to make other dudes look better. Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence and even Thibodeau, like all these guys working in tandem. I just think there's going to be a lot of pressures and sacks to be had, and I think that Carter is honestly going to be one of the most destructive elements of that equation. I didn't think about anybody else for this award. Like, he was the clear pick to me. Shout out Travis Hunter, I think deserves a mention just because of the fun of it all, but I just don't know how many defensive snaps he's going to play. I think he is going to play a shit ton on offense, and I think be used in certain packages, certain situations defensively, but that's not where he's going to make like defensive rookie of the year level impact, in my opinion. I just don't think he'll have the number of snaps on that side of the ball. How about the newest award, Logan, Protector of the Year, brought about this season to honor the best offensive lineman in football? Who's your pick here?
Yes, some of us would have just considered this award to be the MVP because we all know the most valuable guys on the field are the big boys.
You build from the trenches. You build from the trenches, Logan.
And that's how you win Super Bowls.
Hell yeah, brother.
Penei Sewell. I didn't think about this one long. I think he's the best offensive lineman in football. I think he's been the best offensive lineman in football. The guy's got a mean streak. He is a physical freak. Like, he's super strong, but he's also super agile. Yeah, I didn't think about this one too long. It's Sewell, and I think it's a no-brainer.
I would take Sewell here as well. I mean, just like you said, absolute physical freak, best run blocker in football. This is going to be an interesting award to see like how voters determine this, because obviously there's not going to be like any production to speak of from offensive linemen. So it feels like it's pretty much going to go to the guy who's just considered the best offensive lineman in football. And I do think that that's probably Sewell. And, you know, there will be a case for Lane Johnson, maybe Jordan Mailata, Trent Williams if he can stay healthy. There's a lot of great offensive linemen, but I do view Sewell as the best bet. How about Comeback Player of the Year, Logan? Who do you like here?
I alluded to this earlier. I'm going to go with another Lion. Lions are just filling up my award sheet here. I've got Aiden Hutchinson. I think that if he bounces back and has the kind of campaign I'm expecting him to have, he should be a no-brainer. There are some good candidates here. There's a lot of different directions you could take this award. But if Hutchinson comes back and has the kind of year I'm expecting, you know, maybe 15-plus sacks, wins Defensive Player of the Year, I think he should be a shoo-in for Comeback Player of the Year as well.
Hutchinson, very good pick. I think probably the most intuitive just in terms of being like a monster talent who obviously had a really unfortunate injury last year, and if he comes back and replicates that, yeah, he's going to make a great case. I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence, though. And I'm going with him even though I don't think relative to his position he'll have the sort of elite production that Hutchinson did, where Hutchinson is arguably top 5 defensive player in football. Lawrence obviously is not that at the quarterback position. Even if he does have a really good season, I don't think he'll be making that sort of case. But I think that his comeback is going to be twofold in the sense that, yes, he is coming back from a significant injury that ended his season, but also I think it's just going to be a bounce back in terms of him playing much better, because last year was a down season for T-Law. It was disappointing. He had some accuracy issues. The turnover numbers were too high. I'm still optimistic about the talent, at least relative to the consensus. Like, am I as high on Trevor Lawrence as I was when he was a prospect? Definitely not. He hasn't put it all together as I would have hoped. But I look at the traits, and I still see the really impressive arm talent, the really impressive frame, great size, very good mobility. I see a guy who, yes, needs to cut down on the turnovers a little bit, but also, like, for the most part, has been a good processor, good in terms of his timing, good as a decision maker overall, very good in terms of his willingness to stay in the pocket, hang tough there, but then also with the ability to create out of structure and make plays with his legs. Like, there's just a lot of talent there. And I think that the play calling was awful in Jacksonville in the Doug Peterson, Press Taylor era. I think that oftentimes he was let down pretty badly by his receivers, right? All the years that the Jags led the league or were towards the top of the league in drops. Now you bring in a great offensive mind, Liam Cohen, a guy who squeezed every last drop out of what that offense could have been in Tampa, made them one of the elite units in football, both in terms of running and passing effectiveness. You bring in a great offensive mind like that, and you bring in a great offensive playmaker like Travis Hunter, who I do think is immediately going to be an upper echelon receiver in the NFL. And I just see a lot of ingredients cooking for a big-time bounce back for T-Law and the Jags offense as a whole. I think that there is no team that wasted their potential talent more last year than Jacksonville. I think that they're going to get a lot more out of that talent this year, and I think that T-Law is a big part of that. And I think that there were times where he was blamed too much, maybe for very average-looking production when the situation around him was not good. Now I think that situation is better, and I think he's just going to be put in better positions to succeed.
This is ballsy. I like the take. I like
Thanks,
the
man.
Jags' optimism, and I don't want to give T-Law like a full pass because I think we have seen guys overcome like subpar situations. You know, like that's why we don't view Trevor Lawrence as like a Justin Herbert level guy, right? Where even if your organization is incompetent or you have bad infrastructure, you can overcome it. That being said,
Right.
I mean, the Jags have delivered an absolute masterclass in how to ruin your superstar quarterback and not get anything out of him, like starting out with Urban Meyer as his first coach, then Doug Peterson and Press Taylor. It's like one of the worst things you can do is have a bunch of coaching overturn every single year and not have any stability, any continuity. You know, we're switching playbooks, we're switching play callers, we're switching offensive coordinators. That kind of instability is really hard to overcome as a quarterback, especially when you're doing it now for the third time. And so I agree with you, man. I still believe in his talent, his ability. I think it's all there. I just think someone needs to harness it. And I hope it's this year, man. I've made it pretty clear how I feel about the Jaguars. I've gotten cooked by them a few too many times, so I'm just not going to get burned again. But I hope for T-Law's sake and Jags fans' sake that this is the year. But to me, the Jags just have this kind of organizational stench that I just can't get over. So
Because Doug Peterson reeked. Doug Peterson smelled really bad, and Press Taylor smelled really bad, and before them, Urban Meyer smelled even worse, and he was a massive pervert. And now it's a new era, Logan.
And they're taking showers in Jacksonville now, hopefully.
They learned that it's actually okay to bathe, and people are saying that they actually are smelling pretty good this offseason. I will say, if there's one area that this team could still maybe reek on the offense, it would be that offensive line. I think that that's a question for them, but I just feel much better about the play calling. Yeah, it's definitely a below-average group, but they've got more dynamic playmakers, and they've got the mind to bring it all together. So, Logan, for Coach of the Year, who's your pick?
Dude, I think I may have picked this coach to win Coach of the Year like 3 or 4 straight years.
Good.
I'm running it back with Dan Campbell again.
Nice.
Like, the thing about this award is it is narrative-based. You know, like, and most Coach of the Year awards are. It's the same for the NBA, too. It normally goes to a team that overachieves, that you didn't expect to win X amount of games or something like that. So when we're looking at how my standings are going to shake out, like, I guess Raheem Morris is probably the most, like, unexpected. I have the Falcons, I'll spoil it, winning 11 games, so he would be the most no-brainer. I give this spiel every year, so I don't want it to feel tired, but I guess this year it's different because Dan Campbell lost all of his coordinators and people are finally doubting the Detroit Lions. So I would say that this is the year where people expect the Lions to win maybe 8 or 9 games, and I have them winning 12. So maybe this is the year where people go, Dan's the GOAT. You know, we believe in Dan. He's the guy because all this roster overhaul. So I think Coach of the Year by far is the hardest award to predict. It's kind of a crapshoot more than any of the other ones. So I'm going to go with the guy that's getting doubted here in the offseason, and I expect to overachieve, even though I think the roster is uber talented. So give me Dan Campbell. The dark horse, if you were to press me for a dark horse, I would say 2 guys, and they're both in the NFC. I would say the Cardinals' Jonathan Gannon, because I really like the Cardinals' talent, and if they can overachieve defensively and make a playoff push, they would be the unexpected team to crash the postseason party. If not him, I would say Ben Johnson. And the Bears, if they drastically turn it around and maybe eke out 9 or 10 games, get that 7 seed in the NFC, I could see Ben Johnson being that kind of guy. So narrative-wise, I don't think Dan Campbell is a wise bet.
Yeah.
But I don't know who the hell else I'm going to go with. So with how my record shook out, I went with Dan Campbell.
I respect your loyalty and your desire to bite some kneecaps off. I just think, man, if he didn't get it last year when they won 15 games in spite of all those defensive injuries, and he didn't win it the year before that when they won 12 games and took this leap to being such a great offense, and he didn't win it the year before that when they started 1-6 and then they won 8 of their last 10 games.
What does a guy got to do?
At this point, it just feels like the bar has been set so high that the only case would be like they don't miss a step, even losing 2 great coordinators, because I think that that's probably a big reason that Campbell hasn't won the award. It's because, yes, he's absolutely an amazing culture guy and leader, but he's not viewed necessarily as the football mind because Ben Johnson was so great and Aaron Glenn was so great, especially what he did with that defense last year in spite of the injuries. And so if they go back out there and win 15 games, then yeah, I think that there's going to be a really strong push for Dan Campbell. But if they experience any drop-off, and if it's 11 wins, 12 wins, then I just feel like the bar has already been set so high for Detroit that there's not going to be any push for Campbell. And like you said, like especially in recent years, this award has largely gone to like the most surprising, really good playoff team. Last year, it was KOC and the Vikings, who won 14 games in a year when a lot of people thought that they weren't going to be in the playoffs. By the way, I didn't think they were going to be in the playoffs. They won 7 games the year prior, and he just makes such a dramatic improvement with Darnold. That defense is so great. You give Brian Flores credit there, but that was an amazing coaching job and a surprising success. The year before that, it was Stefanski with the Browns, surprising playoff push. The year before that, it was Dable with the Giants, surprising playoff push. And then a couple years before that, it was Stefanski again with another Brown surprising playoff push. It just hasn't generally gone to like the elite teams that sort of maintain that elite status. So I'm going to continue the trend, and I'm going to go with a team that I view as seeing one of the biggest leaps in football this year. Duval. For the 8th time this episode, Liam Cohen praise. He's my pick, man. I just think he's a great offensive mind. I think you look at what he did with that Bucs offense, specifically turning around the run game, where 2023... they were one of the more limited rushing attacks in football.
They were one of the worst rushing attacks. They might have been dead last in yards per attempt, if I remember correctly, man. That running attack was putrid.
Right. They were dead last in yards. They were dead last in yards per attempt. He comes in, and yes, they get a really good talent in Bucky Irving as well. But
shout out Graham Barton, too, holding down the middle of that line.
For sure, the offensive line also improved a little bit, but there was a good bit of carryover from the previous year there, but the offensive line got better. But also, like, to go from dead last as a rushing attack to 4th in yards, 3rd in yards per attempt, that to me was so impressive. We'll see how much improvement he can make in the Jags run game, where he's not operating from that same position of advantage in terms of having a really good offensive line. But you look at what he did, getting by far a career year out of Baker, who had a career year up to that point in 2023, and then his production took a massive leap with Liam Cohen leading the offense in 2024, in spite of some injuries to the receivers. Like, I just think he is an absolute maximizer of talent. I think he is a really, really good schematic coach in both the run and pass games. And there's talent for him to play with here. And there's a lot of meat that was left on the bone. I think he comes in and I think he eats all that meat right up. And Liam Cohen is your coach of the year, folks. Oh, don't take that out of context.
I hope somebody clips this and is like, Liam Cohen picks Liam Cohen to win coach of the year.
He's my guy. He's so fucking handsome is the thing. I'm just so deeply attracted to him. I get lost in his eyes. And so, yeah, I'm going to pick the guy to win the award. He's unbelievably good looking.
He is brilliant, man. The Jags are just such a joke of a franchise. I hope, man. I don't know, man.
Duval County's taking notice. We're all taking notice of what you're saying.
Look, dude, I don't know what could I say? Like, I'm bad franchise pilled? Like, what's the new terminology? Like, if you're...
How would the kids say it?
Yeah. How would the kids say it? Help me out here.
Yeah, they would say that you're bad franchise pilled and you don't believe in the clankers down in Jacksonville.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. You know what clankers is?
Yeah, I've heard.
I just learned that the other day.
Yeah.
Trying to keep up with the kids here, Logan. Getting into our mid-20s. You got to keep up. Life moves fast. All right. That's it for our award picks. Let's now just run down our entire NFL standings. We'll go through this real quick. We've already talked about all of these teams in previous episodes, so we won't be offering explanations of these picks, just to have it all on the record. Take me through your AFC standings, Logan. Let's go from the top to the bottom.
Okay, in the playoffs, my 1 seed is the Ravens at 13-4. My 2 seed are the Bills at 12-5. My 3 seed are the Chiefs at 12-5. And winning the AFC South at 10-7, I have the Texans as my 4 seed. My wild card teams, all at 10-7, are the Steelers in my 5 seed and the Chargers and Broncos in my 6 and 7 seed. The only reason the Chargers and Broncos aren't higher is just because I do anticipate the AFC West cannibalizing themselves a little bit. Outside of the playoffs, at 9 wins, I have the Raiders and Bengals. At 8 wins, I have the Jaguars. At 7 wins, I have the Patriots. At 6 wins, I have both the Jets and the Dolphins. At 5 wins, I have the Colts. And rounding up the rear, at 4 wins, I have the Browns. And at the bottom, I have the Titans. The Browns at 4 wins, and then I have the Titans at 3 wins.
Lots of similarities. I have the Ravens as your 1 seed, 13 wins. The Bills winning 13 games as well. Then the Chiefs winning 12. The Jags, as their division winner, are in the 4 seed with 10 wins. Then in the wildcard spots, Chargers with 11 wins, Broncos with 10 wins, and the Patriots with 9 wins. And then missing out, I have the Bengals, Texans, Raiders, and Steelers all winning 8 games. The Dolphins winning 7 games. The Jets winning 5. The Colts and Browns both winning 4. And the Titans, I also have bringing up the rear, winning just 3 games. Shout out Cam Ward. I do like Cam Ward. I just think that roster still pretty much sucks. But I think the Cam Ward-Calvin Ridley connection is going to be fun. How about the NFC, Logan?
At the top, I have the Eagles winning 12 games, edging out the 12-win Lions for the 2 seed. I have the Rams in my 3 seed at 11-6. I have the Falcons winning the NFC South at 11-6, and then my wild card teams, the Packers in my 5 seed at 11 wins, the Commanders in my 6 seed at 11 wins, and the Bucks in my 7 seed at 10 wins. The Niners narrowly miss out on the playoffs as a 10-win team. Then the Vikings and Cardinals miss out as 9-win teams. I have the Bears winning 8 games, the Cowboys winning 7, the Seahawks winning 6, the Giants winning 5, the Panthers winning 4, and the Saints winning a measly 2.
I have the Green Bay Packers as my number 1 seed, baby. I'm Packers pilled. I'm all in. I'm all in on the offense. I love LaFleur. I love Love. I believe in Golden. The run game's going to be amazing. I think Micah is game-changing defensively. They're very
breaking
well coached on
news.
that side of the ball.
The Toyotathon will be running all 22 weeks of football this year.
We might need it. And if it does happen, then I feel even better about this pick. But I've got them winning 13 games and taking the 1 seed. Then I've got the Eagles winning 12 games. The Bucks winning 12 games as well. I've got the Rams winning 11 games.
No Baker
my last
MVP
division winner.
case? Oh, I would if I
No.
had predicted this, I would take
I
Baker
know.
to win the MVP.
Well, Logan, the way I see it is it's more about the collective. It's a loaded receiving room. It's a loaded running back room. It's a loaded offensive line.
Fuck all that. Baker's a goat.
Well, I know that that's how you feel, but I do really, really like the Bucs. Then in my wild card spots, I've got the Lions winning 11 games, the Vikings winning 10 games. Very strong 10-win team, I think. Just tough schedule going against the NFC North. And then I have the Niners with a very easy schedule, bouncing back and winning 10 games as my last playoff team. And then missing out, the Commanders, Bears, Cardinals, and Falcons all win 8 games. The Giants, Cowboys, and Seahawks, I have all winning 7. And then I have the Panthers winning 5 and the Saints also winning a measly 2. So I've got 3 new playoff teams overall from last year, that being the Jags, the Patriots, and the 49ers. And honestly, I wish that I could have gotten one more in there because I think I saw some stat that like for decades upon decades, there's been 4 or more new playoff teams every single year in the NFL. There's always that turnover, man. Things can change so fast. But I just couldn't find that 4th team that I really liked as being the team to jump into the playoffs, or that team that I thought was going to drop off, especially in the NFC, man. I think a lot of the top teams from last year are going to be really good again this year, although I am lower on the Commanders than you and most. So now that you guys know our entire standings predictions and you know which teams we have in the playoffs, let's get into some hypothetical predictions here. We won't spend too long on this because it is all in the hypothetical realm, but let's start with your AFC playoff Logan. First round, what matchups do you have and who do you have advancing?
So the 1-seeded Ravens take their bye in a rematch. The 2-seeded Bills take down the 7th-seeded Broncos. The 3-seeded Chiefs take down division rival Chargers. And my Pittsburgh Steelers finally get that monkey off their back and win a first-round playoff game. They beat the Texans in round 1.
You know, if there's a matchup for them to do it. I mean, I don't have either of those teams in my playoffs, so.
You know what? Completely understandable.
This guy fucking had to rig. He had to gerrymander the standings to get the Steelers.
Yes, and I'm going to do it
with.
every damn year, man.
It's disgusting. It's just disgusting. I have the Ravens advancing with a bye. I have the Bills beating the Patriots. Now, this is your 2-7 matchup, which I believe, if I remember correctly, is the same as it was in 2021 when Josh Allen played the perfect game and the Bills scored 7 touchdowns on 7 drives. I think it would be equal amounts of dominance this year. I am high on the Patriots, but I also do think they're just going to take advantage of a very weak schedule, and I think they would get absolutely destroyed by the Bills in a playoff game. Then I have the Chiefs beating a different divisional rival, the Broncos, and I have another AFC West team, the Chargers, beating the Jags in actually a playoff rematch of what we saw a couple years ago, where obviously the Jags led a pretty miraculous comeback. I do think that the Chargers are just a more safe bet. I think you get more consistency from the quarterback position. I feel better about the line, although the Slater injury is significant, and I just like the Chargers defense more, and I think that they're also a very well-coached team. So that's probably the most interesting first-round matchup for me. In the AFC, let's move on to the NFC, though. What are your first-round predictions?
So the 1-seeded Eagles receive a bye. The Lions, in my 2-seed, will take down the 7th-seeded Buccaneers. The 6th-seeded Commanders will upset the Rams, and the 5-seeded Packers will upset the division-winning Falcons.
Okay, I have the Packers getting the bye. I have the Eagles beating the 49ers. I have the Bucs beating the Vikings. That could be a really interesting matchup. It's all going to hinge on J.J. McCarthy, who I'm not the most optimistic about, but as we've talked about, I mean, the Vikings took a 14-win team and improved the roster outside of the quarterback position. So if he can play at a solid level in a really ideal situation, they could definitely be a big-time threat to win a playoff game, or maybe even a couple of them. And then I have the Lions beating the Rams, another playoff matchup from a couple years ago, 2023. We got a very fun battle between these two. Obviously, you have the Stafford-Goff narrative of it all. Even though I don't think this is going to be the best regular season from the Lions, and I do really like the Rams at the end of the day, even with a couple losses on that offensive line, even with losing a couple of really good football minds, like they're still a stacked football team. They're still pretty damn stacked on offense. And defensively, I mean, if Ali McNeil is back by this point, and if they are just overall healthy, defensive line is loaded. A lot of talent in the secondary, ridiculous safety tandem, a lot of talent in the linebacking core. Like, the Lions could absolutely be one of the scariest teams to face come playoffs. Just a lot of talent on both sides of the ball and years of pedigree at this point of being one of the best teams in football. So I do have them advancing. Let's move on to the second round in the AFC. Logan, what you got?
So I have got the 1-seeded Ravens slaying the division rival Steelers, and I have the 2-seeded Bills finally unseeding the 3-seeded Chiefs at home. I for a long time have held the belief that I would never pick against Patrick Mahomes in an individual game format, and this has yet to happen. But I think this is the most vulnerable the Chiefs have ever been. Also, Carson, I want to give you credit last year, man. I was looking back to our old predictions. I always shit on you for taking the Cowboys to go to the Super Bowl because that's a hilarious prediction. You also did take the Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl and win last year, and you also did go on record before the season started, and you said, this is the most complete Chiefs team ever. I think they're going to win 14 games. A lot of people shit on you for that take, and then they ended up winning 15, man. Like,
and they got to the Super Bowl. By the time that the playoffs came around, I did not pick them to get to the Super Bowl.
Well, you took the Eagles,
that's okay.
though.
No, but I'm saying out of the AFC.
Oh, I mean,
but it was a toss-up.
It was.
Thanks, man.
I don't think the Chiefs are as – this is all to say. I don't think the Chiefs are as dominant as they were last year. I think this is the most vulnerable the Chiefs have been, and I think this is the best Bills team ever. So with those things lining up, I am going to take the Bills to take down the Chiefs. And I think Josh Allen's going to ball the flip out, buddy.
Yeah, the thing is, Josh always balls the flip out, doesn't he? And it's going to probably come down to some other factors, like are the Bills capable of getting a stop? Are they capable of getting any pressure whatsoever on Patrick Mahomes?
Is Leslie Frazier going to guard Travis Kelce, you know?
Yeah, we should bring Leslie back just so he can decide, you know what, we got to play 60 yards off of him. They can't possibly score in 13 seconds, can they? We'll see, man. I mean, that's always a question. McDermott, does he have just the schematic brilliance of Spags? No. So I think that there's always a coaching advantage that does go to the Chiefs in this matchup. That being said, I do think that the Bills have a loaded offense right now in a way that the Chiefs don't quite. And even though I don't think that the Bills have like premier skill position talent, I like the totality of their group, and the offensive line is really good. And Josh has just proven that he can elevate them to being, again, a top 3 offense every single year. I look at the Chiefs' offensive line, and I'm more worried about it than I've ever been before. So even though I like the receiver talent that they do have, and I think that Mahomes is just always pretty much going to play excellent in a big game, unless you can totally eat that offensive line alive, I do think that this is the Bills' best chance to actually get some legitimate defensive pressure in this matchup. Adding Joey Bosa. Could we see a Greg Rousseau breakout? I think it's possible. I thought he had a very good season last year and then just didn't have an impactful game against the Chiefs. But it's the most talented defensive line the Bills have had, I would say. It's the most vulnerable the Chiefs' offensive line has been, and I think in a lot of ways that's where this matchup could be decided. Just can they do anything disruptive on the defensive end, because they've never struggled putting up points against the Chiefs. They lost a game where they put up 36 points to them in the playoffs, and 29 points last year, and 24 points 2 years ago. Like, that's not what it's going to come down to. And that does scare me with the Bills, because I still think that there's a big hole at safety, and I'm not all in on this pass rush, but I just think the margins have been so damn slim in this matchup, especially the last couple years, and I think that they've tipped just enough in the Bills' favor. So I'm going to take them too.
I'm sorry, man. Did you clearly have PMTSD, bruh?
I've been pretty badly traumatized by this matchup in every single time. Except for 2020. Man. Like, the last 3 playoff games have all been literally as close as possible.
Bro, you got this fucking 1,000-yard stare, man. It's going to come down to the defense and if they can slow down Mahomes, man.
It is. It's not even about Mahomes in a vacuum, because I know how great he is. It's like, can we do anything to make him uncomfortable? Can we be more creative with our coverages? Can we find more ways to bring pressure? Can we get pressure with 4 is the most ideal thing? And those are always going to be questions, but again, I just think that in terms of talent, the scales have tipped just enough in the Bills' favor, but you never know with this matchup. I am going to take Buffalo, though, and I am also going to take the Ravens to beat the Chargers because I just don't think the Chargers have enough firepower to win that game. Also, I understand if some people are like, well, do you never know with Bills-Chiefs because the Chiefs are 4-0 against them in the playoffs. I would also say the Bills are 4-1 against the Chiefs in the regular season in the Josh Allen era. So, like, nobody has proven more of an ability to beat Kansas City, and the margins could not have been closer in the playoffs. So I do think that they have a very good chance to do it this year. Let's talk about the NFC, Logan. What you got?
I think the Commanders exacted a revenge on the one-seeded Eagles. I think Daniels is going to have a lot of tape on this team over 2 years now, is going to have more experience. I also think this Eagles defense has taken enough of a step back. It's not a big one. I want to be clear about that. I still think this is going to be one of the league's elite units. That's why I have them as my number 1 seed, but this is a division rival, so you're going to have more games against them in the regular season. I think their secondary has gotten a little bit worse, and I think their defensive line has gotten a little bit worse. It's not major. I don't want to act like it's this, they're not going to be a bottom feeder or anything like that, but I think they're vulnerable enough to where I could see the Commanders unseating them. And then in another divisional playoff matchup, I have the Lions taking down their divisional rival Packers. So that sets up a 2-6 matchup in my conference championship.
Yeah, you're all in on those Commanders, man. And I'm all out on those Commanders. And you know what? I'm just going to say this, and I'm probably saying this too soon, but with how relentless you've been about the Cowboys pick for me, let's just say if the Commanders miss the playoffs entirely, maybe I'll throw a little bit of that back in your face, and they won't have the excuse of everybody getting hurt.
It's not like
not be that bad.
It's not that bad because it's the Cowboys,
The Cowboys, the team that had been churning out 12-win seasons every year, and then all their best defensive players and their quarterback got hurt.
Yeah, when's the last time they were to a title game?
Is that all that matters, Logan?
Commanders went last year.
Is that it's all about? It's not at all about having
Cowboys,
fun.
I want to
It's not
say
at all about
we
the soap
were
opera.
in our father's balls.
Yeah, I was in my old man's nuts at that point for sure. Yep, no doubt about that.
No,
all
you
right,
can give
well,
me.
I'm just
No,
saying.
dude, you can serve it back. Like I will have earned it. Like I'm not gonna act like there's not flaws about this team.
Sure. Logan, I just think that I like to act with a certain level of class and decorum, and then every episode you throw back this one terrible take in my face, and let's just see. I'm just waiting. Maybe I'll pounce if the opportunity presents
Look, man, I've been
itself.
eating DeMontis Sabonis shit for a while, so.
But you won't concede on that. So
I would never concede
It's not really
on that.
satisfying. It's not really satisfying. It's just sort of like I've found an insane homeless man screaming at the edge of the street, and there's not really any debate to be won there. We're just kind of yelling at each other, and now I'm the one who's yelling at a mentally ill homeless man. That's not a good look for me, and that's what I just keep getting roped into over and over again.
Is that my player comp for basketball analysis?
When it comes to talking to Montes Sabonis, it
okay,
is
fair.
Yeah,
fair.
yeah. Anyways, I have the Packers beating the Lions. I think this would be a real heavyweight fight, man, but I like their quarterback more. I just think that the Packers actually have more ways to win football games at this point because their offense is so balanced, and they do have a quarterback who has an ability to create out of structure and move and evade pressure and do these things that Goff doesn't, and that can really come back to bite Jared Goff at times, even though when things are going on schedule, he can be so good. You're just getting more versatility from a guy like Jordan Love. And I think that, honestly, at this point, I give the coaching edge to the Packers. I need to see what we're getting from the Lions' new coordinators, man. Yeah. Do you think that that's crazy? I think that LaFleur is phenomenal. I think that Hafley was amazing with that defense last year. I think that they are a very smart team that maxed out their talent last year and then added really good talents, in one case an all-time talent at the most important positions for them, wide receiver and edge rusher. So I think the offense, the passing attack is going to be a little more dynamic, and they were already one of the best offenses in football. And defensively, now they've got that game-breaking player who I think could give Jared Goff some hell. And I just don't think that Lions offensive line is going to be quite as dominant as it has been over the past couple years. So I will take Green Bay in what I think would be a really great matchup, but I think they've added the necessary pieces to overcome this matchup in a way that they couldn't last year. They've added the high-impact guys at those premier positions. And then I have the Eagles beating the Bucs. I think these are two elite offenses, but I just think that Eagles defense is still substantially more talented. So we're on to the title games, Logan. Ravens-Bills for both of us. We saw this in the divisional round last year, and it was the Bills who advanced. How do you see it going around this time?
Yeah, I've got the Bills taking down the Ravens. I think it's going to be hard fought. I think it's going to be close. And if the Bills don't get a turnover, like thinking in my head, the Ravens probably win this football game. Like I think that is the route to the Ravens losing any playoff game that they're in if they lose the turnover battle. And obviously that's like a blanket statement you could make for any game, but I think it's more important for Baltimore when you have such a easy formula. Dominate the time of possession game, control the ball, grind the other team into submission with Lamar and Derrick Henry. Don't let them touch the ball, limit their opportunities on offense. Like the Ravens have such a simple formula, but I do feel like Lamar probably turns the ball over once or twice again in this matchup. He's just made a habit of it, and I know people always give us shit for not giving Lamar his due credit or whatever. He just hasn't performed as great as Mahomes and Allen have on the playoff stage, and I need to see him do that before we crown him. Like, I'm not just going to forget that he put up 10 points in a title game against the Kansas City Chiefs when he had possession after possession after possession to capitalize on a game that was very close. They lost that game 17-10. You should never lose a football game in which your defense holds Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to 17 points. I'll guarantee you, if Josh Allen was playing in that game, he would have won it. Last year against the Bills, Lamar has 2 turnovers in that game, and I get that other circumstantial things happen, right? Mark Andrews drops a game-tying opportunity. That's not on Lamar's fault, but it is Lamar's fault that he dug that hole. So if we're doing this, I'm going to take the quarterback that I believe in more on a big stage, and that is just so clearly to me Josh Allen. And they did it last year. I expect them to do it again. So I'm going to take the Bills to go to the Super Bowl.
I love it, Logan. And you know that I have the utmost faith in Josh Allen, truly one of the great playoff performers that we've ever seen. We can recite the stats over and over again, and honestly, we might as well. He's number 1 all-time in terms of total touchdown to turnover ratio in the playoffs. He is number 1 all-time in total yards per game in the playoffs as well, if I'm correct. So just a ridiculous playoff performer, and I know what I'm getting from him every time in a big matchup. But I just think the Ravens have the better roster. I think that once that defense rounded into form last year, the talent that they have at every level, but especially in that secondary, man, it's just on a different level from a Bills team where I really worry about what's going to go on at safety. I still have some questions about the pass rush. The run defense was up and down this past year, and so I just feel like there are significantly more reliable, high-end playmakers on the defensive end for Baltimore. And then I think both of these offenses are elite. I actually trust the Bills' offense a little bit more just because I have that much faith in Josh. And I also love what they've built in the trenches, and they're just so balanced between the run game and the passing game. But the Ravens' offense is also ridiculous, and they have the best group of pass catchers that they have in the Lamar era. It's the best group that they've ever had, and Zay Flowers didn't play in this playoff matchup last year. Obviously, the run game is, in my opinion, the greatest that we have ever seen, and we've never seen a rushing duo like Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and Lamar is the best he's ever been as a passer. So if he doesn't make a couple of boneheaded mistakes like he did in that playoff game last year, I just think that they've got the clearer formula. I still think that this is an incredibly close matchup. I think it would go down to the wire, but I'm just a little bit more confident in the Ravens as an all-around stacked football team that also has a superhero at quarterback, whereas the Bills have a superhero at quarterback. They have an incredible offense, but they just have a couple more holes on the roster on that defense, really.
Would you go to the game if the Bills make the Super Bowl?
Yes. I'd have to. It's in Santa Clara. It's like 40 minutes for me. So I think I'd have to go. And then hopefully I wouldn't self-immolate. Hopefully I wouldn't burn myself alive after.
I would hope so, yeah.
But you never know, Logan. If they lose, I can't make any promises. But unfortunately, I don't have the Bills in the Super Bowl. I have them losing in another AFC title game to, this time, the Baltimore Ravens. How about in the NFC, Logan? What you got?
Damn!
Listen, man. I don't want to seem like I'm being a downer about the
Bills.
Bills.
No,
I think they have a great chance to win the Super Bowl. I just think the Ravens are marginally the
I know,
safer
I know,
pick because of the defensive
I'm just
difference.
such a delusional fan that if I had Josh Allen at quarterback, I am taking the Bills to win the Super Bowl. I'll spoil it, but I would take the Bills to win the Super Bowl every single year, and we'd win like 17 games every year.
See, but I can't do that. I can't do that. I do
I
think that this
respect your
year is
journalistic
as
credibility.
good a chance as they've had, but I just think the Ravens are a more stacked football team.
In my conference title game, I have a rematch of last year again, and I think the Commanders best, the Detroit Lions, in the title game. They go on the road 3 straight weeks. They dominate everybody. They take down the Rams. They take down the Eagles. Then they take down the Lions, and I think Jaden Daniels in year 2 leads the Commanders to the big game. As a 6 seed, yeah, it'd be pretty unprecedented. I think the Commanders are going to have to duel in every single game. I've been very clear about this. I think the Commanders' formula is very rigid. They've got to play track meet football. They've got to outscore the other team by scoring like 30 or more points probably in every single game. It's not going to be defensive, smash-mouth kind of football. The Commanders are going to have to play up-tempo. They're going to have to put a lot of points on the board, but I really do trust this offense, and I trust Jaden Daniels, and I think they do it. So this is setting up a Bills-Commanders Super Bowl in Santa Clara.
That would be a shit ton of fun, man. I've been pretty clear about this. I just don't think that the Commanders have the defense needed to get this done. I just think they're much too flawed on that side of the ball. And when you're going up against other elite offenses who also actually have defensive playmakers and get stops, I just think your ability to win shootout after shootout, like that's going to run out at some point. And also because of their brutal schedule, I actually don't even have Washington making the playoffs, as I already talked about. I have the Packers beating the Eagles in my NFC title game. I think that these are 2 stacked rosters. To me, I look at these 2 in Detroit as just the most talented football teams in the NFC. I like Jordan Love at quarterback more than Jalen Hurts. And again, I think that there is a versatility to the number of ways that the Packers can win games that I slightly do prefer. And I think that Hurts played really well in the last couple games of the playoff run last year for Philly. There were also extended stretches of the year, though, where his processing was an issue. He was taking a lot of bad sacks, wasn't getting rid of the football, and just the passing attack overall was very limited for extended stretches. I am more confident in Love's talent. I expect more consistency from him in year 3 as a starter, and I think that they've put better pieces around him now for that passing game to be more effective. I think the run game is going to be awesome. And then defensively, yeah, now they've added the game-breaking talent who they needed to be able to beat a team like Philly that is so good in the trenches. But Micah can win one-on-one against anybody. Like, he is that great. And now, again, there's less pressure on Gary, more opportunity for this entire pass rush to be disruptive. And then defensively, I think they're very well coached. I think they've got a couple big-time playmakers on the back end. I think that McKinney is excellent. So I really, really love this Packers team, man. And at the end of the day, I just think that although Philly does still have probably the more talented defense, I think that the gap there has closed. That's gotten a lot closer. And I slightly prefer their offensive formula. So I am going to take Green Bay. Now, we get to the Super Bowl, Logan. You've got Bills Commanders, and the Bills are your Super Bowl champion. You already said. Why is that?
In a rematch of Super Bowl 26, I do have the Bills taking down.
It went great that time.
The Washington Commanders. Yeah, I mean, I think this is the best Bills team that they've had in the Josh Allen era. I think they're the most complete. The skill position talent that's around Josh, it may not be overwhelming and star-studded, but it's really deep around him. He is the best offensive engine in football in the regular season for my money, and he's one of the best playoff-performing quarterbacks in NFL history. So I don't have to do a lot of thought exercises about how the Bills are going to get these games done in the playoffs. Josh is going to put this team on his back like he always does. But this year, the defense behind him actually pulls their weight. They get pressure. They stop the run. They are suffocating through the air. I just think this is the most complete team that they've ever had. I think the Bills' defense could be top 10, fringe top 10. I think their offense will be top 5 to top 3. And that combination with Josh putting the team on his back, I think, is enough to get the job done. And I don't think it's going to be easy against Washington. I don't think Washington's a pushover. I think they can put points up on anybody. But I just think this is the best Bills team that they've ever had in the Josh Allen era. And I think this is the year that Josh breaks through and finally gets it done. So I know that people are probably fed up with the Bills. They keep hitting their head on this ceiling, the AFC title game. I don't think it's their ceiling. I think their ceiling is the Super Bowl, and I think this is the year that they finally break through. So I'm taking Josh Allen.
I love that you are just betting on the quarterbacks that you love and you're betting on the offenses that you love, because I think that both these teams have some questions defensively, certainly more so with Washington.
For a long time, dude, I've been defense pilled, and, I'm not going to say that hasn't proven its worth. Like, you look at the Chiefs and the Eagles last season, hallmarks of that team was the defense, right? Like, and they're stacked at all these different position groups. So I don't think these teams are like the most overwhelmingly talented. I think if you want to look at those teams, you look at our top 10 contenders episode. But if there's something that has been changed in my football philosophy over the past few years, it's that you got to have that quarterback and you got to have the offense. And I definitely believe in both of these offenses and both these quarterbacks more than a lot of other teams. So I'm all in, man. I know it's bold, but I believe it.
Look, I think, again, the Bills have a great chance. To me, they are a top 3 Super Bowl contender this year, and I can absolutely see them getting it done, and there's no offense that I'm more confident in. But when I look at the Ravens, I just think if Lamar plays up to his potential in a playoff run, they are the most logical bet to win it all. And so I am going to take them to win it all. I think that both them and Green Bay are 2 of the teams that I am most confident in being elite on both sides of the ball. Like, I think that they have the talent necessary to do that, to just be all-around juggernauts, basically. But as much as I like Jordan Love, there's a big gap between him and a Lamar Jackson. And as much as I like the Packers offense, the ceiling that can be achieved by Lamar playing up to his potential and just the overall unstoppable run game here, paired with this hyper-efficient passing game. And then defensively, you've got the best secondary in football, and you've got a pass rush that is maybe the only question if you had to point something out about the Ravens' defense, but was still second in sacks last year, if I'm not mistaken. Just not a team that got a lot of pressures.
They added this rookie too, Mike Green in the. I want to say they got him in the second round. Like, he had like 17 sacks last year. Man, they're going to be fine.
I think that they're just the most loaded team in football all around. When you also consider that they have this mega talent at quarterback, which I do think is a really important equation for me to be confident in picking you to win it all. And they've just basically checked all the boxes, other than the fact that they have had a couple of these really disappointing and somewhat inexplicable playoff collapses. That is on their resume. The offense has let them down. I talked about this the other week, but like, in the playoffs in the Lamar era, the Ravens defense has been great. They've allowed 18 points per game, but they've put up 18 points per game. I just think that defense is still great, and this is now the most confident I've been in the offense. So I am going to pick them to win it all, but there's a lot of teams within the inner circle who I think have a good chance. The Ravens just, to me, have the best of all of them on paper. So there you have it, folks. Think we've covered everything at this point, Logan. I mean, we've given our hot take on every team in the AFC and the NFC. We've ranked our contenders. We've put every NFL team into tiers, and now we've given our full record and award and playoff predictions. I don't know about you, man. I'm ready for some freaking football to kick off.
I'm fiending, bro. I will say, if this plays out how you predicted, I mean, I think Lamar is stamped as a top 10 quarterback all time after this season if he wins a Super Bowl. I think Josh too. For me, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, I think Lamar and Josh are probably already top 10 for me already. And I know some people would take issue with that because they haven't won Super Bowls, but I've watched a lot of football and I've watched a lot of quarterbacks, and I think they're 2 of the most exceptional talents I've ever seen. But yeah, I think consensus-wise, I think people, if either of these guys got it done, I think they would be stamped all time.
Yeah, I'd love to see it for either one. Especially for Josh, obviously, as a Bills fan. That would just be a dream come true, and I would run naked on the pod, and I would do jumping jacks naked, and I would run circles naked. And Logan, don't try to hide your excitement. You've been asking me to do this every single pod. We have a pre-production meeting, and I just see a bullet point on the document, and it says, Carson runs around naked, ? And interestingly, I'm never the one who writes that down.
That was arousal. I wasn't. I'm not mad.
It looked like confusion. Okay, good.
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued.
As you should be, and as you guys all should be. So if you want to see that, root for the Bills to win it all this year. We'll see. I mean, Bills-Ravens this Sunday night. Come on, man. Lock in. Cowboys-Eagles Thursday. After that game, Friday morning, we will have takes reacting to it, and we will give a bunch of predictions for week 1. So you can look forward to that. But this is our last NFL show before the season actually kicks off. Can't wait. Just absolutely cannot wait. Bart Scott can't wait moment. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Hope you've enjoyed all of our NFL preseason content and hope that you are as excited for the season as we are, and hope that you will stick it out with us throughout the year and check out some of our coverage of the NFL season. And if you want to, well, you know where you can find it all across our YouTube channel. We've got all of our full episodes, NBA, NFL, trivia, all that good stuff. We've had a lot of fun this summer, and now summer is coming to an end, Logan. 104 days of summer vacation over, but football is a pretty great reward for that coming to an end. So you know where to find all of that. You can listen to it across all audio platforms. You can follow us across social, TikTok, Instagram, at NerdSesh, Twitter, at Nerd_Sesh. And you can join our Discord if you want to chat with the gang and be part of our community over there and get some takes off on NFL Sundays and beyond. So with that, as always, appreciate you guys. God, do we appreciate you guys so much. You guys are just the best. And with that, as always, I've been Carson Breber.
I have been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.